From Central Indiana's #1 news source, this is Fox 59 Tonight.
Well, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 59 Tonight. I'm Cameron Little. We appreciate you downloading our new smart TV app. Excuse the background. It's doing something weird back here. It wasn't like that before, but nevertheless, download that logo that you see on the background on Fox 59 and now on your smart TV. That's on your Roku, Fire TV, or on your Apple TV. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if that is where you are watching. We're going to talk about some information today. There's been some news that has happened over the past week, and that is that you've heard the term, maybe you have, Library of Congress. We're going to talk about what that is and why the person who is in charge, the Librarian of Congress, was fired from that position. Her name is Carla Hayden. That's a job that is you serve a term, and it usually overlaps presidents and different things like that. She was in year 9 of a 10-year term, and she was fired by the Trump administration just this past week. The excuse or the reason that was given from the White House press room podium was that she was putting DEI information and making kids read that and providing that type of information to them. And we're going to talk to somebody who knows a thing or two about libraries, because I want to clear up what the Library of Congress does and what the Librarian of Congress does. The person who knows all about that is Nichelle M. Hayes. She is currently the executive director of the Hurston Wright Foundation. Nichelle, good evening.
Good evening. It's good to see you again, Cameron.
Thank you so much for coming back. We're going to talk about some books. We're going to start a little book club for topics like this, because there are a lot of things that are being pulled off the shelves and things that people might want to, just need a good read. But I first want to talk about the library and Librarian of Congress, because I know that's something that's near and dear to you.
Absolutely.
The Library of Congress, what is it?
So, the Library of Congress is a repository of information, and initially it was a tool for Congress and for senators. And then later it expanded so that any American citizen can visit. Look at information online. It's a repository. So it's a research library.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a neighborhood library where you would go in and have children's book hour or arts and crafts or things like that. As important and great as those things are, that's
Mm-hmm.
just not what you do at the Library of
Now,
Congress.
can the public go into the Library of Congress?
The public can go in and you can have a library card to
Okay.
utilize things
Okay.
at the Library of Congress. Usually it's in the space and you don't take them out. And I actually have one, so I geeked out
Mm-hmm.
and I was really excited that I could get my library card with the Library of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
But the supposition that Dr. Carla Hayden, she has a doctorate in library and information science, that she is kind of trying to perpetrate some kind of plan on children is just not. It's not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
She wants the full tapestry and knowledge of what writers bring to the table to be able to be accessed through the Library of Congress.
There's a quote here that I want to read that um, was said by Carolyn Levitt at the White House. She said there, quote, were some quite concerning things that she had done at the Library of Congress in the pursuit of DEI and putting inappropriate books in the library for children. Your response to that?
My response to that is that I fully support parents and caregivers monitoring, controlling what their children read.
Mm-hmm.
I fully support that 110%. So, Cameron, you can come into the library and you can monitor what your child is going to read.
Mm-hmm.
Where I draw the line is you telling me what my children or my nieces and nephews
Mm-hmm.
can or cannot read.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of books in the library. And many of them I will never touch because I'm not interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not interested.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to read about World War II. I don't really want to read about Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not interested. So, but if you bring me some science fiction, something like that, then I'm going to just gobble it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what the press secretary was saying was just patently false.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is no plan to put certain books in the library. These books are being written by individuals. It talks about a certain slice of life. And some people want to read those books, and there's nothing wrong with that. What they want to do is to ban any book that they don't want to read.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're showing is what's being banned are books by and about Black authors, also books by and about people that are part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're
Is
seeing.
Now she says again, the language here is that she had done at the Library of Congress and putting inappropriate books in the library for children.
Patently false, incorrect.
Do you I think the point that you were making earlier is you don't take children to the Library of Congress to
One, you don't take them to the Library of Congress to check out a book to
Mhm.
take home and read. But another thing is that another part of what the Library of Congress does is that they have a repository of all the books that are being published.
Mhm.
So if I publish a book about bubblegum in a shoe,
Mhm.
then they're going to have a ISBN, all the information, and it's going to be a part of the record. Now, maybe you think that book is valuable, and if
Mhm.
I write it, of course, I think it's valuable.
Mhm.
But maybe somebody else says I don't need to read that, and then
Mhm.
they just move forward. And so, what we're saying is, what she's saying, the press secretary, is that the person currently in power can control what other people can access.
Mhm.
It's called freedom of information.
Mhm.
And we are information professionals. And so we might give advice on books. Someone tells us, I'm looking for this, I'm interested in that. And so we kind of, look in our list and see who's doing what and, what's just come out and what's an award winner.
Mhm.
And then we give that information to someone. But it's not anyone having a plan that you're trying to corrupt
Mhm.
children.
Mhm.
That's not what's happening at
Uh,
all.
and we talk about information being cut off. We did a show last week about what's happening with PBS and NPR,
Yes.
and our Indiana stations being hit double hard by not getting any state funding, and then potentially going to lose their federal funding as well. More and more information sources are being cut off from people, and again, it's like you said. You don't have to read these books. You don't have to watch PBS. But if you find something wrong with Big Bird and Mr. Rogers uh, teaching people how to be nice to people no matter what they look like and where they come from or who their parents
How
are,
to be kind, how to be
how to
understanding.
be kind. What is wrong with that?
And I would say nothing because everyone is our neighbor. It's not just the person that lives next door to us, it's anyone that we encounter. And at the end of the day, we should be kind and we should be loving to our neighbors. It's not up to us to judge how someone is living
Hmm.
or what they're doing unless person is physically harming someone else.
Hmm.
That's where we draw the line.
Hmm.
No, we would not perpetuate that, but this is not what we're talking
And
about.
that's not something you find at PBS or in the Library of Congress.
Absolutely not. And so it's very it almost feels like you're living in a dystopian novel, like the world is crumbling,
Hmm.
uh things are upside down. Literally, we're talking about Big Bird, we're talking about the Cookie Monster, we're talking about the Count,
Hmm.
who's helping to,
Hmm.
teach people how to count.
Hmm.
I just listened to a great video of Patti LaBelle
Ah,
singing the
the ABCs. That's one
ABCs.
of my favorites.
Patti LaBelle
Patty
singing
LaBelle.
the ABCs.
Hmm.
Like, You want to learn the ABCs? Patty LaBelle can help you to
I have
learn the
played that from
ABCs.
my son Carter, that
Yes, he
version.
needs that. He needs that in his life. And so I think there's a fear. The real fear is they don't want young people, especially young white people, let's
Mhm,
just call it what it is, to know about the history of our country. They want them to think that people that are part of the African diaspora just kind of sprouted here out of nowhere. We've had to have people help us,
mhm,
and we can't do anything on our own. So they don't want us. They don't want our accomplishments to be known.
mhm,
They don't want our struggles to be known.
mhm.
A book I have today, "Built from the Fire: The Epic Story of Tulsa's Greenwood District." America's Wall Street by Victor Luckerson.
Well, I want you to I got
And I just bring that up because this is something that a lot of people don't know about.
well, and I wanna get into that because there's a lot of history that is out there that you don't know unless somebody teaches you or you watch it somewhere
Or
or
you
you
read it.
read it somewhere, and so with that, we're gonna start a new segment here,
Okay.
to allow, you to bring some books to enlighten us, um, and, maybe if you don't have time to pick up a book and read it, there are a lot of people who like to listen to books.
I love an audiobook. And so I have kind of a parallel track.
Okay.
I have physical books that I use and keep and underline. And then also I listen in my car when I'm exercising, when I'm gardening,
Mhm.
when I'm washing
Mhm.
dishes, when I'm
Mhm.
doing whatever. And you can also pause and make notes when you're
Yes.
doing that. So both of them are acceptable.
Just as a reader, do you have, uh, any preference? Because I know there are some people who are like, "No, you have to read the book."
I used to think that, but I've come away from that because sometimes you're so busy, you just don't have time to sit down and
Mhm.
actually read the book. And I actually have a trick. Don't tell anybody about this, but
Okay.
you turn it up to 1.25.
Uh-huh.
That is my sweet spot. So
Okay.
you're speeding it up, but
Uh-huh.
it's not too fast,
Okay.
but it's not too slow.
You're
So
still
you can
taking in
really,
information.
yeah, you can really churn it out and get an understanding of what's being said
Well,
in
and
that
I
book.
I get a better, picture of what's happening, during okay, Nichelle, you gotta help me because 'cause we're not gonna stop this show because my screen just went blank.
We're not.
So look at your screen. Everybody at home is gonna figure out what I'm trying to do. I
Okay.
can't see what's on anymore.
Okay.
So, do you
It's
see
the
my
two of
mouse?
us. Yes.
Okay. Where's my mouse?
Your mouse is up at the top,
Okay,
profile.
I'm gonna try and drag us to a different screen.
Okay.
Is it moving?
It's moving.
Okay.
Good job.
Alright, I pulled it back. So now I have to look over here to control the show because out
Okay.
of my 3 monitors, this one has gone off, but we didn't have to stop the show, so
Yeah.
that's good. So little housekeeping for everybody at home as we get through some technical issues here. Um,
The magic behind the
the
scenes.
magic behind the scenes that you got to see it as it happened. So, uh, okay, so some audiobooks, and I like audiobooks because, they say radio is theater of the mind,
Mm.
and so as I'm listening to a book, I imagine it's more live to me.
Because I'm listening to so many audiobooks, I'm starting to have some favorite narrators
Okay.
that is popping up with me because they'll start and I'll go, oh, okay. I know
Mhm,
them. I remember them
mhm,
from this or the other.
mhm.
So one I just finished this week was Star Trek,
Okay.
and it was Discovery. So the latest iteration in the Star Trek universe. And what they were doing is some of the actors were voicing
Okay.
their parts,
Mhm,
which was, it's just very, very different
mhm,
instead of having one narrator doing all of them.
mhm.
So it can be very exciting.
Narrating audiobooks. Didn't think of that.
Hmm.
I already have a
Another
microphone.
job
Yeah,
with your mini
yes,
jobs.
I got a
Yeah,
microphone.
right.
I can
You
do it
can
from
do it.
home. Hmm. Okay, so let's talk about some of the books that you brought.
Okay, great. So I was starting to talk about Built from the Fire.
Mhm.
This is the epic story of Tulsa's Greenwood District, America's Black Wall Street by Victor Luckerson. So many of us have heard a little bit about Tulsa and Black Wall Street and what happened. And this book is an award winner. And actually, the Hurston Wright Foundation gave this book and this author an award. And it goes into a huge, deep dive about what really happened. And so, this unfortunately was a massacre built from the fire. And there are actually several people that are still living that lived through the Tulsa riots, the Tulsa massacre, and they are still trying to get justice. They haven't gotten it yet, but they're still trying to get justice. So, Victor is a journalist and an author. And so he went to Tulsa and he lived there for several years and he got first person accounts on exactly what happened. And so they were firebombed from the sky. Um, it was it was brutal.
Hmm.
Businesses were taken away, homes were taken away, families were lost. It was devastating, but the resilience of the people in Black Wall Street, in Tulsa, and their resilience to rebuild
Hmm.
and say that I'm not going to let that stop me. That's amazing. And I think all of us can learn from it. I have had the honor of touring this area and really seeing kind of it started here, it went up all the way here. And now what you see is that our highways
Hmm. Hmm.
have intersected that area. So, what happens in a
We
lot
could
of
do a whole
areas,
show on that.
a whole show, what happens in a lot of areas, you go over there to that section of town, whatever that section is and everybody's minding their business. They're building up, things are going great. And then they say, hmm, we want that back.
Hmm.
And this is what happens.
Hmm.
So either the interstate comes in, or we just come in and take everything you have
Hmm.
and then, just tell you to go away.
And it is also, this is one of those, this goes back to what you were saying about uh, not everybody wants the story told of
Hmm.
what happened. And, you know, you could uh, generalize it to how our streets got their shapes and how our cities got their shapes.
Hmm.
There's stories of what happened and why. And this is one of those stories.
Absolutely. And so if you really want to know what happened, and so a lot of times people say, oh, this documentary and oh, this TV show, but the depth that you get from a book, be
Hmm.
it a physical book or an audio, is just so different
Hmm.
because the time is taken to go into depth and to really lay out everything that happened from
Hmm.
the very beginning to right now. So 100 years in the neighborhood that refused to be erased.
Hold that book up. There you go. Built from the fire.
Yes,
You got an audio book with that?
absolutely.
Okay.
And I've met that author. He's amazing. As I said, he's an award winner with the Hurston Wright
Hmm.
Foundation.
Hmm.
He won a Legacy Award last year in October. I heard him do some reading in DC. It was amazing. It was really amazing.
All right. What else you got?
So, my next book, I'm going to talk about Women Behind the Mic,
Okay.
Curators of Pop Culture, Word to the Wise.
Okay.
So this is created, compiled, and edited by LaJoyce Brookshire and Michelle Joyce. And so in this book, what they're talking about, exactly what they said, women behind the mic. So
Hmm.
women in hip hop,
Hmm.
what they did to promote that medium and what they're doing right now. And so you have your Queen Latifahs, you have your Salt and Peppers, and then you have your disc jockeys.
Hmm.
And so they did a lot to propel women in this medium. And so
Hmm.
they talk about what that was like and the kind of impact they had. So
And you've read
check
that
that out.
one.
I've read parts of it and I've heard from the authors. So I get a lot of books, as you can imagine. So, in one of my other jobs where I was president of the Black Caucus American Library Association,
Hmm.
we brought them to a conference
Hmm.
and were able to really dive into this. Curators of Pop Culture.
I would be interested in reading that one. Obviously, I sit behind a microphone. Not a woman, but there
You
is,
can definitely learn something.
yes, I can learn something, but also I can relate to the stories.
Absolutely. And radio is different
Mm,
than TV.
yes,
And
yes.
we're kind of talking about that now.
Uh huh.
So my next book is Black AF History: The
Okay.
Unwhitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot. And so this book is funny, but it's nonfiction. So that
Okay.
means it's true.
Mm-hmm.
When I say it's funny, sometimes you have to put the book down because you're laughing so much.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Harriot used to be with The Root.
Okay.
He's pretty infamous. He also received an award from the Black Caucus American Library Association for his work. And he's going on all over the country. And he's just talking about the blackness of our history here in America.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times there are erasures.
Mm-hmm.
Things are just not talked about, and we just pretend nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
But he's putting all of them back in.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources that he has for this, I think there are about 20 pages of endnotes and sources.
Mm-hmm.
And so that what that means for the uninitiated is you can then go to that source and read it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to just rely on what Michael Harriot said.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the sources and say, oh, so that's where he got that information. And with this book, interestingly enough, I did both. I listened to it on audio and I also had the book open. And so I'm kind of going back and forth. Oh, pause. I need to actually underline this because it's so important. The history that's dropped in this book, everybody needs this.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage every parent to give it to their child, no matter how old they are.
The history part is important. Like you said, it's how we got our shapes. It's why things are called what they're called. And if there was a story, if I ever wrote a book, and I don't have that in the cards, but even a story that I've considered doing for next year for Black History Month, I like stories that um, explain, why does Bluff Road have four different names?
Mm,
It goes from Bluff Road to West Street to Dr. Martin Luther King
mm.
to Michigan Road,
And it used to be
Northwestern.
Northwestern. You
Uh-huh.
have to be old school to know Northwestern.
But there's a whole story
Hmm.
of
And
especially
most people don't know the story.
correct. Don't know that story of why that stretch is called Dr. Martin Luther King and only
That
that
stretch.
stretch.
Right.
I've seen somebody did a good story on that this past year, but a story that I would like to tell. And that helped me realize that we do need to tell more of these stories that you're talking about is why we have so many school districts in Indianapolis. Why
Mm.
does one city have 12 different school districts in it? There's
We
a
need that story.
there's a whole story, and what I have learned as I've gotten older is people don't know why they lived in Brightwood, but got on a bus to go to Perry Meridian High School.
I would say younger people don't know, but I would say older people do know
I
because
would
they
say,
lived when it was happening and they saw what was happening in the courts. They saw desegregation,
mhm.
whether that was achieved or not.
There's an
Um,
older, yes, I would say, and somebody did this really cool story, and I don't remember who it was, but when we were talking about desegregation of schools, um, when the deseg order ended in Indianapolis, somebody interviewed a mom who was the first year of deseg,
mm,
and her daughter was the final year, was
mm,
graduating that year.
hmm.
Was very cool. I don't remember who did it, I don't know what station, but it was cool. Um, but there was a segment of not of younger adults who are now adults. So maybe they weren't that first generation, but
Hmm.
there's a segment of adults who don't know why they were getting on that bus.
Right. And what I would say is that America does not do a good job of teaching history.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't do a good job. And then sometimes we just don't teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sometimes when the history is very painful, we avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's unconscious. And so you're not explaining. There's a reason why you're getting on a bus and taking a 45-minute trip
Mm-hmm.
to another school
Mm-hmm.
that has no connection to
Mm-hmm.
you. There's a reason why you're going to that school, but everyone else in your family went to John Marshall High School
Mm-hmm.
or Crispus Attucks High School
Mm-hmm.
or Arlington or any other
Mm-hmm.
or Broad Ripple.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason behind that. And I think we have to ask these questions. And I think as people that know what this is about, we need to sit people down and talk to them about it.
Well, maybe
And not just once.
if I do that story, you should be part of it. You should be help. I'm going to ask you to help me with the research, and because there are people who I would like to talk to. I know the facts and the story and how it went down, but finding the people to tell that story
Hmm.
because Most people don't realize it. They never think about it. Like, okay, I live in Indianapolis and you live in Indianapolis, but you go to Warren Township School and you go to Wayne Township School, but it's the same city.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen in other cities.
No, and when people come here, they don't understand it.
Yes.
But because I've grown up here. I'm a third generation Hoosier, East Sider for life.
Mhm.
I This is just all I've known
Mhm.
as growing up, and
Mhm.
so yeah, it's there. It's there. That's the line. That's the
Mhm.
demarcation. But other people, it's very foreign. And what we have to say to ourselves is this efficient?
That
And I don't think we're ready for that question.
Well, see, you bringing books and us sharing information just made me think about more information that we need to give out about our own city. So I'm going to add that to my list of. It's been on my list of ideas, but I think that's the story that needs to be told because it's hard to find any research about it. If you Google it, there's an article or two. There's somebody did a good write up.
Probably checking the newspaper primary sources,
Mm-hmm.
the Star, the Recorder, the news. Back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
people might not even remember the news.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Herald.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that you could tap into. The Indiana State Museum would be a
Mm-hmm.
great resource, as well as the Indiana Historical Society.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to tell people that this information is out there,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have to reach out and touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it's free. Especially the things that you can access online. And there are people there, the information professionals, the librarians, they are itching. They're itching to tell you
Mm-hmm.
the answer to your question. Why is this street three names?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it this, that, and the other?
Mm-hmm.
And someone will know about that,
Mm-hmm.
and they will just be pleased as punch to tell
Yes,
you
to
about it.
tell to
Yeah,
tell you, and the issue is not them telling you, it's when being told that I can't tell you, or that information is being taken away from telling you.
exactly. And
That's where we have a problem.
yeah,
Nichelle M. Hayes, thank you so much for coming. We look forward to having you back to keep inspiring us and telling us more. We got to name this segment "Book Club" something.
we'll work on that.
We'll work on a name. More of Fox 59 tonight is coming up after this break.